Well, they're running right now in the 8th race here at Santa Anita, part of the Flo-Cal Faceoff. It's the Astra Stakes. And Joseph Migliore led into this race. And right now, Lady Clementine is the early leader. I'm joined by NHC Hall of Famer Chris Larmey. Chris, how you doing? And we're involved in the action already.
Yeah, fast and furious here. We got a really tight leaderboard. We've got the 2-horse Lady Clementine, one of the favorites on the lead. And it looks like nobody on the leaderboard in the top 5 has the 2, but a couple of them a little further down do. Our leader, Joe, that you just mentioned, he's got the favorite in a nice stocking spot right off the 2. He's got a slim lead, but it looks like he decided to go with the chalk and hope he can hang on. Looks like our third slot. Yeah. I was going to say in third, John Kennedy has the 7, who's sitting in third in the race. So not the greatest position, though, to be 3 wide on a turf race.
No. I'm just looking at who has Lady Clementine, the 2 horse at 4-1. You have to go down to the 8th place leader, and Greg's got that. And just looking at the fractions, seem to be sensible, 113 and change, and still Lady Clementine on the front end with the Chilean bred Australian Mia right on her flank on the outside.
Yeah, she looked like the wild.
And then Queen of the Temples up the inside in third.
Yeah, and the 5 looked like the wild card in this race. It was the South American horse that might just be the class of the field if it takes to U.S. racing, and it has had kind of an ideal trip, stocking the 2 all the way around. So we'll see if it's good enough. There's this big. This is a mile and a half race, so you get this big cavalry charge at the end, and it looks like right now the 3's taken over, and that's Bill Chenvert, who was the early leader. And my long shot, the 4, is really flying late. If it can get up, I can make a nice score in this race, and we'll have a new leader. There we go. It's too bad we didn't get a chance to talk about this race because I was all over the 4.
Duvet Day.
Duvet Day, yeah. And Pete Cello, who had that horse at a big price. I think that horse is double-digit odds. Will probably vault well into the lead. That horse looked good on paper. Looked like the one horse in this race that genuinely likes a mile and a half. It was the horse I liked. It was the horse I bet, and it was a horse that Pete Cello liked. And he's going to get rewarded for that because you got to go all the way down to 15th place to find somebody else that had that horse. But down there, Vineet Sharma will probably also make a big move in this tight leaderboard with that long price. What at 13-1, so that's like a $40 horse. That's going to shake things up. That's
13-1,
yeah. And I am. That was my bet of the day. So that was a good start. A good start for me. Too bad we didn't get a little bit chance to chat about that race. But at least we're got through our technical difficulties now. A
big price, biggest.
Yeah. I think we're having
biggest price of the day at Duvet Day at 13-1.
Yeah, and I told our
still having some
production guys. Yeah, I told our production guys, Matt and Ryan, while we were working through technical difficulties, if they were bored, they ought to put a bet on this 4 horse. It was a really good bet in this race, so hopefully they listened to me and they cashed. Yeah, the thing about that race was the distance. That was the key, 1.5 miles. You don't run many of those here in the U.S., especially in California. And there's just certain horses that are built for it and some that aren't. And this 4 horse has always shown it really did relish. The longer they went, the better it got. And got a nice ride from a rider that's been riding up in Canada and is down Santa Anita for the first time. So it's big for him to get a stakes win going along on the turf. That'll help his book going forward. And it's certainly going to help a few of the players. If we scroll down the leaderboard maybe a little farther, you can see down in like the 24th through 28th positions on that leaderboard, kind of where people were a little farther behind. They were taking some shots with prices. There was a whole bunch of 4s there. Chris Grutch, George Bosch, Von Bear, Mark Rassenstein has 2 entries, and he had it on both. So, he's going to all of a sudden be in a really strong position going forward. So this race was a fun way to get things started on the live stream. Big difference. Let's see, 28.80 and 11.20. That's a $40 horse. That's a big score.
Yeah, it's the biggest price horse that we had today, I believe, as well.
Wow.
28.80 at 13-1. There was the first race of the contest at Gulfstream. Swuntara paid $25.40 to win. We had a lot of mid-price horses, but nothing like this. I'll call it a mini bomb, if you will, not a cap horse or anything like that. But when it's the longest shot of the contest so far, we're almost halfway through the contest. It's significant. And if we update the leaderboard, you'll see everyone who's in the top 8, from what I can tell. There it is right there. They all use the Irish bred Duvet Day for trainer Mike McCarthy, and did show some nice performances going a real long route of ground earlier in 2022, and picks up her biggest win, I believe, so far in her young career.
Yeah, 9 of the top 10 had that horse. That's what happens when you hit the biggest horse on the day, when there hasn't been a lot of prices and it was a pretty compact leaderboard. We've got a long ways to go in the contest, but there's only a couple of races left today, and there's some pretty good day money on the line. Why don't you brief us on that? Because we're getting close to seeing who will walk away with that money.
Yeah, day money, first place, $12,750. So not only are the top competitors trying to get in position to take home the $183,000 first place prize, you're also trying to lock up some 5-figure payouts just for day number 1. And 384 entries in the Flo-Cal Faceoff 2-day tournament, 40 races total, 11 from Gulfstream today. They're already in the books. Santa Anita, 10 races today. And then on Sunday, Gulfstream has a 10-race card and Santa Anita has a 9-race card. And the total prize pool over $500,000, $511,410, and the winner gets $183,600. Second place, $73,440. And then if you win this Flo-Cal Face-Off, then you really got the potential to take home a huge payday. You got the Tourney Triple on HorseTourneys.com. This being the first leg in the Flo-Cal Face-Off. You got the Players Championship, which is leg number 2 in early April 7th and 8th, and leg number 3, the Spa and Surf Showdown in August, which is Del Mar and Saratoga. And if you sweep all 3, you get a $2 million bonus. You win 2 or 3, you get a $1 million bonus. So whoever takes down the first leg of the Tourney Triple and the Flo-Cal Face-Off will have a chance for a potential 7-figure payday if they take down one of those 2 other contests. But Pete is in the lead. Vinit is right behind him, but Pete's got a nice lead now, over almost $18, $17.80 if my math is correct, with only a couple of races to go.
Yeah, and those bonuses are pretty cool. I mean, $1 million, maybe $2 million. So somebody at the end of this contest, not only will they walk away with $180,000, but they're in the running. If they could win one of the next 2 contests, for $1 million and possibly $2 million. So, it's a lot of money on the line, and 5-figure payout for the day money today, which will get decided over these next 2 races. So a lot of action, a lot going on. That's what I like about contests. There's more than just the race. You've got people battling for day money, people battling for the contest money in the day 2, and then you've got these bonuses. So a lot to play for.
Yep, and races 9 and 10 from Santa Anita are final 2 races. The 9th race is starter optional claiming race, which we'll get in depth in a few minutes. And then the 10th race is a maiden race with a big field And that's a pretty good betting race as well. So even though Pete's got the lead, there's a potential there for a couple of price horses in these final two contest races.
Yeah, and I think
So
we were going. Yeah, and I think we were going to maybe cut to a little segment that we recorded earlier, where I talked about some contest plays for tomorrow at the Gulfstream card. Kind of went over what I thought were some of the things players might want to look, some of the contenders they want to look at. So I think we're going to cut to that, and then we'll come back and talk about the next race at Santa Anita. Hello. I thought it would be interesting to go through the contest races at Gulfstream tomorrow and kind of look at it from a contest perspective and give you some ideas about some price horses that you might want to consider playing in the contest that might help you either maintain your position or move your way up the leaderboard. So I'm going to use DRF Formulator to talk about some of these races. I'll show you a few of the features of that tool if you're not familiar with it. The past performances, I'm sure all of you have seen DRF past performances, but the Formulator gives you a few other things you can do that can help you in contest play. So we're going to start with the first race. It's a maiden race on the turf, full field of 12 horses. This is the kind of race that can produce a price. It's the first race of the day tomorrow. And in these kinds of races, there's lots of inexperienced horses, first-time starters. And I always lean a little bit towards horses that have one or two starts that I think are going to improve dramatically for one reason or another. And for me, there were two of those kinds of horses in this race. One was the 4-horse Heading West, who's 8-1 in the morning line, making its second start. And why do I like this horse? Well, in its debut, which was 5 furlongs, you can see here, you see the little X. The blue means it was on synthetic. The X means it was supposed to be on the turf, and they took it off and put it on synthetic. So on debut, they wanted to run on the turf and couldn't. But the horse still ran a pretty good race. You can see it was in contention throughout and ran kind of an even race, finished 4th. Nothing wrong with that on debut. Certainly something that showed some promise, and you typically expect some improvement in the second start. And in this case, maybe there's reasons to expect quite a bit of improvement. First of all, it will get to go run on turf where they wanted to run to begin with. And if you notice, prior to its first race, it had some pretty fast gate works, kind of over here, 47 2/5 seconds from the gate. You can see that, another pretty good gate work. And then since its last race, they've been training on the turf. That's what this green text tells you and the little T. And in fact, its most recent turf work was a really fast 59 2/5. That's even with the dogs out. That's a pretty fast workout, the fastest of by far of its 3 turf works. So this horse looks like it's primed to really improve in its second start. And one thing I like about Formulator is you can look at trainer stats and you can actually drill down. Brian Lynch is a trainer here, and if we click on this, we can actually pull up the trainer stats and you can set some predefined things, and I have one for first-time starters. And you can look at this and it shows you that for first-time starters sprinting, we can look at what the statistics are for Brian Lynch, and he's pretty good, 13% and a positive ROI. Nothing wrong with that, but it's nothing earth-shattering. But what we're really interested in is not so much what he does with first-time starters, but how does he do when he goes that next start out. So if you go in here, we can modify this. Hold on a second. We can modify this so that instead of looking at first time out, we're looking at second time out. And you can see, wow, he goes up to a nice 21% with a really fat ROI, which is great. So typically he improves second start. And we can even adjust one more time and say, well, what about just on turf? Because this is a turf race. So how does he do second time starting on turf? It cuts into your sample size. There's only 16 starters, but 5 winners. and a really fat ROI. So there's good reason to think this horse is going to get better with its second start. If you can get the 8-to-1 price, it's like 25 points or so in the contest. I think this is a solid play heading west to 4-horse in that first race. Federline, I'll briefly mention this one as another option. She started her career back in early June and July. Ran some good races at Woodbine on the 10th. Hasn't raced since, but 2-year-olds back in July are basically babies, and now she's much more mature and probably can run much faster than this 56 buyer we saw back then. So we could expect to see some significant improvement. She also showed some speed in her prior races. So assuming she's ready off the layoff, she could have developed quite a bit. That's one of the angles I like to play a lot as a horse coming off a layoff. A young horse typically can improve quite a bit off its prior buyer numbers. So that's kind of the angle we've got here. So that's 2 live horses in that race. I'm going to skip ahead now to the 6th race. And in this race, it's another maiden race on the turf, but this one's going 2 turns. So trips can make a big difference. That can add a lot of uncertainty and create bigger prices. Again, this is a mix of first-time starters and horses that have run races before. I like one of each type. I'll start with the 6-horse Well Into, who has had a start. Ran well in that one start that it's had. It wasn't great, but if you look over here at the, hold on a second. Yeah, if we scroll over here, you can see it was sort of caught wide, 3 or 4 wide in this running line. And if you look at the post position, it broke from post 12 of 12. So that's kind of hard to win from post 12 in a 2-turn turf race. So you would expect to see a better trip from post 6 today. It also gets a significant rider change from Julien Leparoux, who rode him in his debut, to Jose Ortiz, who's a better rider and a more aggressive rider. So with the better post and the better rider, you could get a much better trip, and this horse could improve quite a bit. And also the trainer, Jonathan Thomas, I won't drill down again, but you could do the same thing we did last time and see that he's another trainer who does better with the second-time starters in turf routes. In fact, he wins at 25% clip with second-time starters in the route. So another solid 8-to-1 play, second-time starter. And then in the same race, there's a first-time starter, Party Time, who is 12-to-1 in the morning line. This first-time starter, the reason I like this horse is A, this nice 48 flat gate work that shows the horse has some speed and ability. But B, in the formulator, you can also drill down into the breeding. And the dam of this horse, Lawn Party by Medaglia d'Oro, out of Medaglia d'Oro, is a really nice producer, and I'll show you that in a second. He's by More Than Ready, who's also a pretty good turf sire. But if you click on Lawn Party, you can see she was a pretty good turf horse, a route horse, allowance stakes kind of horse, and she won her first start by handily going long on the turf at Gulfstream Park. And she's produced really similar type horses. Anaconda on debut won on the turf, and also, has won over $276,000. And another sibling, Stellar Agent, who was also by More Than Ready. So this is a full sister to this horse. She won handily on debut, going 2-turn, or sprinting this case, but on the turf. And she won $173,000 and actually finished in 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So very classy. And then finally, another sibling won on debut, going 2 turns, or going a route at Belmont. And this horse actually still running Batya. So this mare produces horses that run at first asking on the turf, and she sports a good workout. It wouldn't be a shock at all to see that horse run really well here on debut. So let's go to another race. This one's quite a bit different than those two. We're getting out of the maiden races this time. We're going to go to the 7th race. It's 5 furlongs on the synthetic with cheap claimers, 12,500. So the lower price claimers tend to be less predictable, and you're more likely to get a price. And here again, there's 2 horses I'm kind of interested in. One's this Loyal Louis. He's 8-1. He just was claimed 3 races back by Ken Sweezy, the trainer, who's pretty good claiming trainer. First off the claim, they ran him back on sprinting on synth, which is sort of what he always does. And he ran pretty well. He got a little bit too far back early, but he finished up on and hit the board. Nothing wrong with that effort against similar horses, so he certainly fits. And in the next start, they moved him up in class, kind of above his class level, and they stretched him out on turf. So probably an experiment, but more maybe just a conditioner, because if you look, this horse in the past PPs had tried to route a couple times with really bad results, getting beat by double-digit odds after showing some speed. So probably weren't high expectations in this race. But he actually, sorry about that. He held his form for quite a while. He's still second on the 3rd call. And he faded like he usually does at this distance, but, not nearly as bad as he had in the past. So you could argue that was his best race ever going a route of ground. And now they drop him back to his normal level, sprinting on the synth. He draws the rail. This barn and this rider click at over 22%. That's something, again, you could look up in Formulator. So this one's pretty live at 8-1. Could get a really sweet trip stalking from the rail if he can find some room late. And then just outside him is a potential cap horse, maybe a little more speculative. The horse hasn't done much recently. But if you go back in his PPs, he's had 3 races on the synth at Turfway Park last winter, and you could argue were his best races ever. I mean, first time on synth here on December 20th, he won, and then they actually tried him going 2 turns, probably too far, and he got tired in a stakes race with John Battaglia, and they cut him back in a sprint going 6.5 furlongs. Again, maybe a little farther than he wants to go, but he still ran well in stakes company. So you could argue that his best races were on synth. Then he got claimed by this barn, and they were running him on the dirt because there was no synth races at the tracks he was running at. Didn't show much, but now they brought him back. They brought him to Gulfstream where he can run on the synth, and that's where they're running him. And so you'd expect he might really wake up on the new surface. And what's even more interesting is if you look at his workouts down here, he's got 2 sizzling fast 34 flat workouts in a row coming up to this race. So they're really sharpening up his speed. He may be back on his preferred surface, and he probably will be a cap horse. So this is a kind that could, really make your day in a contest, vault you up the leaderboard. A little bit speculative, but it's a kind you might want to take a shot at in the contest. And so with that, we'll probably stop here and hopefully come back with a few more plays at the next break. Hello, welcome back. As you could tell, we were having a bit of audio difficulties, and unfortunately, we've lost Bill for the rest of the day. We'll bring him back tomorrow, so I'm going to fly solo for these last 2 races. Horses are out on the track now for the 9th race at Santa Anita. This is a starter optional claimer. The leaderboard is really tight. Last race, we had the biggest price of the day come in, and Pete Acachella, who was the only person in the top 10 to have that horse, has a nice 18-point lead with 169 at the top of the leaderboard, but there's a whole bunch of people right behind him that had that horse that are hoping they can hit something in this race and capture that day money, which is over $12,000. And a lot of the players would, love to put that in their pockets before we go into day 2. So we'll talk a little bit about this 9th race. It's kind of interesting. It's a big race with some big prices on the board, but there's a favorite in here who is currently 8-5, the 3-horse Army Star, who really does, look like much the best in here. It kind of stands out at 8-5. So it'll be interesting to see what the players do because, that's not a whole lot of points in a contest setting. And it's not going to be enough for anybody to catch Pete. So the people behind him are probably going to look past Army Star. And my guess is Pete might just figure, I'm not going to worry about playing Army Star. He's not going to hurt me. I can go for somebody else on the leaderboard. So I'm going to guess when we've refreshed the leaderboard and the race starts that we won't see the 3-horse as the play for many of these people. And they'll be looking farther down the leaderboard. And now the question is, who else do you go with? Because after that, the race seems like a genuinely wide open race. There's a couple ways you could go. To me, the 1-horse Mr. Beams seems real logical in here. He's one of several speed horses. He drew the rail, so he's going to have to get away quickly and hopefully can put away the other speed horses. But he would seem to be one that you might see a few of the players gravitate to at 7-1. There is some other speed in there, including the 7-horse, who's another speed horse that, might be dangerous on the front end, although that horse seems to do its best running on turf rather than dirt. So it's probably why it's not attracting more money. But if, you might want to go get a little more creative here, and there are some big prices out there. And one of those is the 9-horse Top of My Game, who seems to be coming around to a good race right now. You can see that horse on the screen. It's ridden by Mario Gutierrez, trained by Steve Knapp, and sports a really fast recent workout. And really, if you look at its past performances, for some reason they were routing this horse on the turf, and it didn't do too well. But its dirt sprints have been all pretty good, and including its last, and it's back sprinting on dirt again. It does come from a bit out of it, so it's going to need the setup. It's going to have to hope those speed horses hook up and tire. But it's certainly a live long shot. Another one kind of in the same mold is the 6-horse Warren's World, a more lightly raced horse. Didn't really run very well until its last race, but it seemed to, kind of finally figure things out. And that was at Los Alamitos, so you always are a little suspect. Can they translate that form to Santa Anita? But if it really has woken up and it can repeat that race or improve off that, it's one at a big price, 20-1, a cap horse that might come in. And there's a couple other price horses, that they might people might go with, including on that outside, Mint Rosa. Another horse that seems to be improving. The outside post might be ideal if there's a lot of speed in here. Maybe that horse can just settle in off the speed and finish. So it'll be interesting to see what the players do. Again, Army Star really does look like a solid play. He's 2-1 now. So, that would probably get $8 or $9. That's not going to catch Pete. So I'm going to guess the people below him maybe, although they might not try to catch him all in one leap. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody goes with that strong favorite or if they go elsewhere, and if so, who they're on. I'm going to guess we'll see a few 1s in there, a few 7s in there, and then, maybe looking for bigger prices with the 6 or the 9. So they're loading up right now. Once the race is off, we'll be able to refresh the leaderboard see who the players went with, and see how the race unfolds. And once it's over, we'll find out who's in the lead going into the final race of the day and who's in the best position to win that $12,000 for first place after day one. So they're about to go off. Oh, looks like they've still got a few to load. There's the favorite. They're showing right now Army Star, and he's the one to beat. He's got speed, but he doesn't have to be on the lead. So my expectation here would be to see him sitting just off the early pace, although maybe they won't mess around and they'll just try to go from the get-go right out of the gate and try to just lead them on a merry chase. We'll find out. They're about to go, and we'll see who the players went with and how the race unfolds. Okay, and they're off. Looked like a pretty good start. And Pete went with that long shot I had mentioned, the 9-horse Top of My Game. And Vincent Sharma in second went with the 1-horse, another horse we talked about. But right now it's the 7 Marks Hip, the horse that tends to be a little bit better on the turf. And he's being pressed by the 8-horse Crowning Gold, who's a pretty good price, 5-1. Let's see anybody with the 8-horse. Nobody with the 8-horse. We've got our 4th place, George Bosch, has got the 4, who's pretty far back, but starting to move up on the rail. And the favorite is sitting mid-pack right now. And this is a wide open race. The 8 takes command, turning for home. We have Mike Coutu, who has that 8-horse. Right now he's looking pretty solid. He's sitting in 8th place, looking to move up. We've got a fast closing 4-horse. That's George Bosch, will stay in the game. He's flying up on the outside, and he's going to take it. The 4-horse, Stay in the Game, will win, and I'm not sure what his price was. Let's see if we can check on that. Went off at 21-1. That is going to shake things up. And George Bosch is going to be the major beneficiary. What a great pick on his part. He nailed a fast closing 20-1 shot. That's probably a cap horse since the favorite finished in 3rd. And, you know, that will put him over 200 points on the day and give him a big lead heading into that last race. Let's look down the leaderboard, see if we can scroll down and see who else may have had that 4-horse. We've got to go all the way down to 25th place, Jay Johns and David Wolf in 26th, and Jason Phillips in 29th. All had the 4. They're going to move up into the 170s, so they'll be sitting in the top 5. But it's, you know, the big winner there was George Bosch. That's the capper. So we didn't have any prices all day long. And as soon as the show starts, we have a 13-1 winner, and now a 21-1 winner in a big field that probably pays, you know, cap prices to win and place. So that's really going to shake things up. You know, we'll have to wait till it goes to official and see what the leaderboard looks like. We'll kind of run that down, then we'll take a break and we'll cover some more races from tomorrow. But Stay in the Game, Tiago Pereira is the winner. They're showing him in the winner's circle. It's still not official. We did have somebody on the 8-horse who ran second. That was Mike Coutu. I might be butchering his name, or Coutu, maybe. He'll pick up some place money. That's not going to move him up too much, but he'll pass up a few people, and you know, every bit helps. And this is a 2-day contest. We got to keep in mind it's now official, so we can refresh the leaderboard, and we'll wait. Takes a minute maybe for it to catch up, but Once it's official, we'll run that down. Once it's reflected, there it is. We've got a new leaderboard, and you can see George Bosch, we talked about now, is over 200 points, and he's got a 30-point lead going into the final race. So it's going to take another big price horse to beat him for the day money. But you can see we had several others, Jay Johns, David Wolf, Jason Phillips, all moved up second, third, and fourth. Pete Acachella, he was the victim of that long shot. He dropped from the lead back into fifth, but he's still in striking range and in a good position going into day two. And then you can see the other people, Tim Yoler, Tim Haas, Alexis Sepp, Nick Fazzolari, and George Kopoulos all had the four. So you can see fours kind of are wild on that board because, you know, that was a big price. And we'll probably here in a second cut to a break, and then we'll come back and break down the final race, see who the players picked, and find out who's in line for the day money. And just let me check real quick. That day money for first is $12,750, second $7,650, and third $3,825. So there is some money on the line, but the big money is in the final contest, which we'll decide that tomorrow at the end of day two. The winner, $186,000 plus, $36,000 plus to the, or $73,000 to second, $36,000 to third, $27,000 to fourth, and $22,000 to fifth. And it pays all the way down to 28th for $1,500. So that's when the big money's on the line. But we'll see who wins the day money here in a minute. We'll come back and we'll take a break now. We'll go to the recorded segment where I talk about the last three races from Gulfstream tomorrow and some potential contest plays. We'll come back and review talk about the race coming up, which is a wide open affair. So it's not over yet. And then we'll see who the players pick, and we'll see what happens in the nightcap at Santa Anita. But for now, I'll toss it back to our production guys, Matt and Ryan. We'll go to the recorded segment. All right, so we are back looking at some potential contest plays on the Gulfstream card. We're going to look at the last three races on the card, if I can get my computer to cooperate here. We're on race 8 this time. Not as big a field and a little bit better horses. So there's only 9 horses, and we're sprinting on the turf again, a little higher class animals. But I actually found a potential cap horse, I thought, in this race with Alexis S, 20-1 on the morning line. And why do I like her at 20-1? Well, if you look back at her PPs, she started her career on the turf, and she really was good right from the beginning. In her debut, she ran second. I'll go to the running line. It says traffic 3 or 4 wide. That was true. She had some trouble. She was parked wide. She still ran second. On Formulator, I could actually click and watch the replay, which I'd like to show you all, but it comes out kind of choppy in the live stream, so we're not going to do that. But you can actually jump right to the replay and see that race. And her second start, again, she kind of got parked wide, but she pressed the pace and then drew off and kind of won under wraps. So really nice start to her career on the turf. And then they stepped her up kind of logically into an allowance in Monmouth. In that race, you can see she was in post 12 of 12. She got bumped around a little at the start. I think it notes that here. Yeah, bumped at the start. And she got parked wide from that outside post. She still ran a pretty decent race, beating a couple lengths, but, lots of ground loss, definitely an excuse for that. And they brought her down to Gulfstream, and early in the meet, there was no turf racing, so she was kind of stuck running on the turf. They even took her to Tampa and ran her on the dirt. And those races weren't bad, but to me, this is a turf horse through and through, and now they finally get back on the turf, sprinting on the turf, which is what she likes to do. I would expect to see her, potentially run a much improved race. And as a cap horse, I think she's really live. So that's one to consider. Certainly no lock or anything, but I think definitely legitimate chance to win, or maybe even pick up some place money at a big price. So let's move on to the next race. The 9th race, this is one where you're not going to get a big price because it's a small field. It's going 6 furlongs, and there's only 7 horses in the race. But I thought this 5 Strategic Bird, 5-1, it's not, I think it's like the 4th choice in the betting. And, you can pick up 15, 20 points with a 5-1 shot. I thought she was clearly the best horse in the race. If you look, she's got a lot of talent. She started her career with a big win with a 79 buyer, finished that up, followed that up with a win in a stakes race with a nice 82 buyer. And that was as a 2-year-old. And if you look, this 82 buyer is about as fast as anybody in this race has run recently, and that was way back in December of 2021. This horse is now a 4-year-old, should be much better than that, and could run much faster than the 82 buyer. And if you look, her races after that were all, hitting the board in stakes company until she ran a bad race at Hawthorne, but clearly she got injured in that race. So, the result is meaningless. Something went wrong. She's been on a long layoff since June of 22. But we know she can come back and get ready off works because she ran that giant race in her first start of her life. So, she can get ready off workouts. Her trainer, Mark Cassie's pretty good off the layoff with these dirt sprinters, wins about 20% of the time. I'm not going to drill down and show you that, but you could do that in Formulator. And she's got a nice work tab, including a really fast 59-2 workout in her latest workout. So she's working well. We know she can get ready off works. We know she's probably the most talented horse in the race based on the numbers and results she was getting as a 2-year-old. If she fires off the bench, she could destroy this field. And there's not a lot of speed for a dirt sprint, and she could even clear early. If not, at worst case, she'll be, forwardly placed, but she might even get the lead and clear. And if she does, she's extra dangerous. So very solid 5-1 shot in a short field. So we'll finish up with your last shot at Gulfstream tomorrow. It's a crazy race. One of these full fields, 12 horses, maiden claimers, going 2 turns on the turf. This is about as chaotic as it gets in terms of horse racing, and one where you definitely want to demand a price. And I've got a couple of them in here. I'm going to start with this 10-horse Modus. I really, really like this horse. 15-1 on the morning line. May not get that. I have a feeling this one might get bet down below that a bit. But why do I like this horse? Well, on debut at Tampa, it was really fractious. It burned a lot of energy pre-race, acted up in the gate, and then it kind of broke out of the gate really fast, but the rider grabbed onto it, just jerked the head off the horse. The horse got really rank, fought the rider all the way around. You can see it was near the lead, and then it got tired, understandably, because it just burned all that energy fighting the rider. And if you look on the comments, it just says it was rated and faded. Well, it was strangled and it had no chance. And it gets even more interesting in the second start. In this race, it kind of acted up in the gate again and got completely left at the gate. And note, this was on synthetic, and that X means it was taken off the turf. So, probably not its preferred surface. Lost all chances to start. It was 10 lengths out of it early because of that start. But it made a really nice move, and turning for home, it looked like it might have a chance to at least hit the board and maybe even win despite that bad start. And all of a sudden, the horse in front of it just cut in front of it, and the rider just completely slammed on the brakes and just stopped riding the last eighth of a mile, completely jogged in. And, with a better start and without that trouble, I think this horse could have won the race. And if you look at the race, you see this Media Sensation and Dark Print ran second. It's in the Dark Print because it's in this race. It's actually a 7-2 second favorite. And I'm sure that this horse ran a better race last time than Media Sensation. So if that one's 7-2 and this horse is 15-1, you're getting a great price on a horse with a real live chance of winning. So Modus, the 10 horse in that nightcap at Gulfstream. And then another horse, even a higher morning line, I think has a shot, is this 8 horse Wild Flight. It's making its second start. We've already talked about how second time starters are a good contest place quite often. This is no exception. Again, notice it started on synth with the X. It wanted to run on turf. They got moved to the synth. It was running for 40,000 maiden optional claiming, so some of the horses in this race weren't even up for a tag. So this was a better class race than it's running in today. Today it's in at 20,000, so it's a big class drop. And in that race, it broke from the outside post, cleared the field easily, got the lead, ran pretty well and got a little tired late. So against better horses, it showed speed in its debut, got a little tired, got that race under its belt, probably going to be fitter, facing weaker, good chance maybe to get the lead in here. This is the kind of horse you'd expect to see, really improve second start. It comes from a low connection barn, hasn't won a race yet this year, so it's probably not going to take money. Might actually be a cap horse at 21 in the morning line. Again, the kind that can vault you up the leaderboard with a little racing luck. So the 8 Wild Flight and the 10 Modus, who, I really like this horse. I'll probably be, putting a bet down on this one. So, that's how I think you can finish the day off. Hopefully, through these two segments, I've given you some ideas about some possible price horses you can play in the contest, and maybe some ideas you can apply to other races and future contests. I wish you the best of luck. Stay tuned, and Bill and I will be covering, the final race here at Santa Anita, race or two at Santa Anita, and join us for the live stream tomorrow, where all the money's on the line, and we'll see who walks away with the big paycheck in the Flo-Cal contest. Welcome back. Hopefully we gave you a few horses to think about playing tomorrow at Gulfstream Park, but we're going to focus our attention now on this last race at Santa Anita and the last race of the day in the contest. And boy, we started off with some real fireworks in these first two races from Santa Anita that we covered. And, this race looks like it's got the potential to keep things going. And we might get another price in here, and I'm sure most of the players are hoping that's the case, because they'd all like to take home, that day money. The leader at the end of this race will be, over $12,000 richer heading into day two. And if we look at the leaderboard, we talked about it before. People who had that 4-horse stay in the game are up there. George Bosch has a nice, comfortable lead of almost $30. So if he's thinking day money, he's not worried about horses like the favorite, the 1 horse, Dandy Man Shines, who's 3-1, or, even, horses at, 6-1. Anything that's not double-digit odds is not going to hurt him in terms of winning day money. So my guess is he'll be aggressive and be playing, a price horse, which he obviously doesn't mind playing because he just hit one that went off at 21-1. And probably the people below him may, be doing the same thing. They're going to look for a horse that maybe can win the day money for them. Although that leaderboard is really bunched up behind him. I mean, there's like just a few dollars, or maybe even like $1 separating second through fifth place. And those people are all eligible to win some day money second and third, which I think is a little over $7,000 and $3,000 for second and third. So they might get cute and go with a shorter price horse, just trying to pass other people up, directly in front of them on the leaderboard. But my guess is these players who are at the top right now, they're aggressive players. They had a long shot in the last race. They're going to go for a price in here. So let's talk about some of those horses at a price that might be worth a look. And for me, the one that I'm the most interested in, right now is in this race is the 10-horse Phosphorescence. I've got some glowing things to say about him, pun intended. The 10-horse, he's 20-1. This is his third start. He really is bred to run long on the turf, especially on his dam side. He started his career at Keeneland on the dirt, routing. That one didn't work out so well, but he did flash early speed in a tough race. They then brought him to California and put him on the turf, or put her on the turf. I think these are gals. No, I guess these are guys. So put him on the turf where he belongs in a sprint, and he showed speed, got a little tired, but looked really good. And this 6 furlong sprints, the front runners have an advantage. This horse threw an outside post, should be able to stay out of trouble. If it gets a clean break, could go right to the lead and never look back. It's got that kind of speed. You see him right now on the screen in the walking ring. He looks really nice in terms of the coat, and he's a little bit up on his toes. So that's the one I think you'll see some of the players gravitate towards that. A lot of players are looking for speed in these races. It's a tough race because there's a lot of first-time starters, so there could be other speed you don't know about. But in terms of the horses that have run, Phosphorescence seems like a horse that could, be a forwardly placed horse that might be able to win on the lead or just off it. Quite a few other long shots that you could look at in here. We'll talk about a few of those. There's the favorite you can see right now. I don't think that horse looks that strong. To me, it's kind of a weak favorite. And you can kind of tell that in the odds board, 3-1. The crowd's not going crazy, but you can see a horse that just walked by there, the 3-horse Valiancer. That one's kind of interesting. Not a giant price, but it's 9-1. And it actually finished ahead of Phosphorescence, barely, but just barely ahead of Phosphorescence last time. It'll be coming from farther out of it, but the barn has been hot. The trainer got suspended for using illegal drugs, but his son took over and has been winning like crazy since he took over. So no reason why that 3-horse Valiancer couldn't run well. And then there are some of the one other horse that's run that I think is interesting is the 9-horse Joe, who is cutting back in distance. It's been routing. They put the blinkers on and cut back in distance. It's kind of interesting move. If that horse can stay, within striking range, it should be rolling late if they are backing up. And this distance of 6.5 furlongs on the turf, the cutback's not too severe. So, that Joe might be an interesting horse. And that horse right now is 18-1. That's a big price. There are quite a few first-time starters in here. Some are taking money, but there's a couple that are still pretty big prices. One is 8-horse Xander. That one caught my eye just because my son's middle name is Xander. But there's actually some pretty good reasons to like that horse. He has a good gait workout, which I always like to see with the first-timers. And his breeding is good. He's a half brother to a horse named Performa, who won $500,000, including a grade 3 race going 6 furlongs on the turf. So, the distance and surface may suit him if he's ready to fire at first asking. So that's a couple, 16-1 shot, or let's see, number 8 Xander is 16-1. He wouldn't be impossible. You can make a case for some of the others. Right now, let's see on the board, there's a lot of horses in that 6-1, 8-1 range. Probably of those horses, the one that I would be the most interested in that we haven't mentioned yet is the 6-horse Pioneer Prince. He's another first-time starter. He has a really fast gait work, 59.8 seconds. That's very quick. I like the fact it was 5 furlongs from the gate. He's really well bred. and he goes for a barn, Richard Mandela, who's, you know, a good barn in general, but he's very good with these first-time starters in turf sprints. I'm a little surprised. He's 6-1 in the morning line. He's still 6-1. I'm a little surprised. I thought, based on the connections and you know, the gate workouts, that horse would take more money. But it looks like it's not, and so it might even float up above that price based on you know, the will pays. So that 6 horse kind of interesting. You know, right now they're showing Joe. You can see he's got the blinkers on. I mentioned he's the one cutting back in distance after going longer routing. You know, I like the fact they've got him away from the pony and they're giving him a good warm up. That usually means they're going to try to be aggressive out of the gate. And he's going to need to be aggressive to get this horse in striking range. But Johnny Velasquez certainly knows how to ride. And, you know, that horse cutting back in distance seems like he's a pretty live runner. One last horse, let's see, that I was going to mention in that mid-price range is the 5-horse Hawker. The big question mark for Hawker is really the surface. I mean, he has shown that he can run fast races, but those were sprinting on dirt. We know he's quick. We know he can run on dirt. The question is, can he run on turf? He's had 2 races, but they were both route races. And it looks to me like he just might be a sprinter, and he may be able to handle the surface. I mean, he's by Justify, and he's out of a mare who's had some pretty good turf horses in the past. So the 5-horse Hawker, if he can run to his dirt form, you know, what he was doing in those dirt sprints, he could be very dangerous. He does come from a little off the pace, so he's going to need a good ride. He's cutting back, but he's got a sharp work. And he's got the rider, Kimura, who rode the winner in that last turf race we saw, the 13-1 shot that came from off the pace. So the rider has already won 1 race off the pace. So, you know, Hawker as a mid-priced horse is kind of live. So the question will be, you know, what are these players going to do on the leaderboard? They've got, you know, choices to make here. They pretty much have horses in every price range. George Bosch probably going to ignore those horses in the 6 and 8-1, you know, and the favorites. He's probably going to pick one of the bombers. And, you know, to me, that would be the 10 horse or possibly the 9, you know, or even the 8, though all 3 of those big prices that he could use defensively. You know, my opinion of the race says go with the 10. That's the one I like the best, but, you know, it kind of depends on his own handicapping opinion. I have a feeling you'll see those people just below him on similar kinds of horses. Farther down the leaderboard, these players may not even be thinking about the day money, and they're focused more on just, you know, moving forward and putting themselves in a position for the second day. And they may be perfectly happy picking one of these mid-priced horses at 7 or 8-1. You know, they have a solid chance because, you know, 25 or 30 points, that's a great move up the leaderboard. So my guess is, you know, after the top 10 or so, you might see a lot of people on horses like the 5 Hawker at 7-1 or the 6 Pioneer Prince at 7-1, or maybe even Valiancer at 9-1. So, you know, it kind of depends on, are they, you know, they're probably not going to just take a shot at a bomb to win day money. If, you know, they're having a pretty good day one, they're thinking more about that $180,000 grand prize for winning the overall contest tomorrow. And so my guess is outside of, because George has got such a big lead, most of the players aren't thinking day money, which is good for George. But I do think probably some of those right below him that could win with like a 10-1 shot, I'll probably play somebody that does give them a chance, you know, to perhaps walk away with some of that day money. Although, like I said, it's pretty tight, 2nd through 5th, so someone might get cute and even go with the favorite, although I really don't like the favorite. I think 2-1 is a terrible price on that horse. But if it were to win, someone like David Wolf or Jason Phillips or Pete Acachella could move up from, third, fourth, or fifth into second and win that, turn a 2-1 shot into a $7,500 payday for, second place in the day money. So they're about loaded in, and we're going to get to see here shortly how the race unfolds. We'll refresh the leaderboard and see, what the leaders went with, and we'll wrap things up for day one and look forward to day two. So they're about ready to go. Let's see what happens. They're off. And the 10 horse, my horse, Phosphorescence, got a really nice break. That's one I thought might get the lead, and he did at 15-1. So let's see if any of the people on the leaderboard went with the 10. And, oh, you got to go all the way down to 13th place and Von Blair. We've sitting in second is Conclude, another first-time starter. Nice stocking spot. We have to go all the way down to the 12th place, Chris Grutch, to see somebody with him. We've got the 5 horse getting a nice pocket trip. That's Hawker. That's one of them we talked about. How's he going to handle the turf? Well, he's looking pretty good right now. And looks like we didn't have anybody near the top go with him. So now we're turning for home. And we've got the 10 and the 7 battling it out on the front end right now. Those two looking strong. The 5 making a move now. Looks like the 7 starting to assert himself. We got a late run from the favorite, but right now it's coming down to the 7 horse and the 5 horse Hawker. And it looks like Hawker can handle the turf. He just didn't like the longer distance. And he's going to score, and let's see what he went off at, 7-1. But unfortunately, or fortunately for George and others at the top of the leaderboard, nobody went with Hawker. Let's see. I'm trying to find anybody in the top first page of the leaderboard. You got to go all the way down to 49th and Mike Goodrich to find somebody who was on Hawker. So not a big shakeup on the leaderboard there. The 7 horse ran second. We did have Chris, I think Gruch had that horse. He'll get some place money. That he'll move him up a little bit, but probably not enough to break into the top 5. And I don't think we're going to see any movement at all at the top of the leaderboard. So I think, let's see, we've got the day 1 winners, and the leader going to day 2 is going to be George Bosch, who has a comfortable 30-point lead heading to day 2. I don't think it'll be comfortable for an entire day's play, but he's going to walk away with the $12,750 for being in first place after day 1. Jay Johns will stay in second and win $7,650. And David Wolf will remain in third and pull down $3,825. And finally, I think Jason Phillips will stay in fourth, and he'll get a $1,275 payday. And those will be the top 4 heading into tomorrow, where once again we'll pick the contest up with all the races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream. If you've been listening, you got a few opinions from me on some price horses at Gulfstream for tomorrow. If you missed it, you can listen to the recording. Go back and listen between races. We had a little recorded segment about Gulfstream. And we will have solved our technical problems. We'll have Bill back with us tomorrow, which I'll be looking forward to. Flying solo was fun, but I'd rather have a duet. And we'll pick it up just before race 6, I think. We'll cover the last 4 races at Santa Anita, starting at 5:45 Eastern, 2:45 Pacific. And we'll have some fun covering those last 4 races and see who pulls down the big paycheck. $500,000 on the line, 180,000 plus to the winner. And Bill and I will be joining you then. So until then, I'll say good night and good luck. Thanks for joining us, and see you tomorrow.